Hi, I'm Gordy Meyers. Today is Friday, August 10th, 1990, and I'm here in Ada, Michigan, doing the Living Family Album's grandparents interview with my father, Marvin Meyers. Marvin Meyers has been married to Clara for 53 years. They have spent their married life in Grand Rapids, Lowell, and Ada, Michigan. Before we get started, here's what's going on in the world at the present time. Right now, the general mood in the United States of America is one of reasonable satisfaction with the present, combined with a great deal of anxiety about the future. Republican George Bush was sworn in as the 41st President of the United States on January 20th, 1989. It is too early to tell how he will compare with Ronald Reagan, who left office with high approval ratings in the polls. The world is basically at peace right now, and there are growing hopes that the long Cold War between the East and the West may finally be winding down. There are still more than enough atomic weapons in the hands of the United States and the Soviet Union to destroy all of civilization. But concern about nuclear war is lower than it has been in many years. The future of the Soviet Empire is uncertain. The communist bloc is experiencing severe economic problems and internal conflicts between ethnic and national groups. The new Russian leader, Mikhail Gorbachev, is trying to reform the communist system, but many observers in the West doubt that he can succeed. Most Americans are optimistic about their own lives, but worried about the future of the country. It is a time of great advances in technology, but also of skepticism about technology and its side effects. At home, the U.S. economy is currently enjoying the longest peacetime expansion in its history. However, there is much concern over the nation's largest budget and trade deficit. The average American is living longer and healthier life than ever before, but there seem to be more things to worry about as well. Illegal drugs and drug-related crime are destroying our inner cities and threatening our youth. International terrorism is claiming the lives of innocent people. Our public schools are declining in quality. The middle class is said to be disappearing, with the rich getting richer and the poor getting more numerous. Homeless people are roaming the streets in increasing numbers. Even though at about $1 per gallon, gasoline costs much less than it did 5 years ago, many are predicting an energy crisis in the 1990s. The pollution of our environment seems to be getting worse, with the possibility that a greenhouse effect will overheat the earth and chemicals will destroy the ozone layer, which protects us from harmful ultraviolet rays. We seem to be in the early stages of an epidemic of an incurable and invariably fatal disease called AIDS. Summing up, it seems to us that we are living in a time of peace and relative prosperity, but with many problems to overcome. Welcome, Pop.
Well,
We're glad to be here doing this interview with you today.
well, I'm glad to have you. I'll do the best I can.
That's all we can ask.
Yeah, so, yeah.
I want to start out, if I can, with a little bit of family history. And if you'll tell us, since this is going for posterity, what is your full name?
Marvin Lee Meyers.
Was there anything special or unusual about your name or the way you were named?
No, not that I know of. I just got it.
How about any nicknames?
Yes, my most famous one is Chips. Marv Chips Meyers. And I'm not sure how I got that name. I was in the potato chip business. But before I got in the chip business, I was called Chips anyhow. And I guess it was playing golf. I played golf since I was 14 years old. I'm now crowding 80. And I was called Chips on the golf course for being a great chipper. So I guess it's one of the two.
One of the two. When and where were you born?
I was born in Grand Rapids, the east side of Grand Rapids, which at the time I was born was the most popular part of Grand Rapids. I was born on Logan Street, one block south of Wealthy, 2 blocks, I guess that's what it was. And at the time I was born, my dad was building a home in the 1200 block of Dunham Street, which was about 3 blocks south from where I was born. And it was a nice home. I have a lot of fond memories of it.
You were born at home then? You weren't born in a hospital?
No, I was born at home. I was born at home on Logan Street. Upstairs, they were renting at the time, an upstairs apartment, and I guess they told my dad to build because I was quite a crier. At least that's what they tell me.
So let's see, that would make you how old right now?
I'm 79. I'll be 80 in January 26th.
80?
80.
Do you have any brothers or sister? What are their names and ages?
Well, I had a brother and a sister who were both diseased. And my sister died at 58 with cardiac arrest. My brother died at 56 with cardiac arrest. And I've had one heart attack about 25 years ago.
What were your brother and sister's names?
My brother's name was Edward Russell Meyers, and my sister was Margaret Meyers. And I can't really tell you what her middle name was. I don't remember.
What are your parents' names, and when and where were they born?
Well, my dad's name was Jacob Meyers. He was born in the Netherlands. My mother's name was Anna Punderson before she married my dad, and she was born in Morley, Michigan. And I don't know too much about ancestral background from there. I really don't. I don't know why we never checked it out, but she had a sister who I knew. I was quite young, real young, and her name was Minnie. And she had a son by the name of Russell DeVries, and her married name was DeVries. And I can remember an aunt. She was a real aunt, but I don't know where from, and I loved her, and they lived over in the southern part of Grand Rapids.
Okay. Do you remember when your father died? What year?
I'm not sure. Dates are hard for me to remember. It seems like it was 1957.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, 1957, I believe.
Wasn't he 72 when he died?
Yes.
Okay. And Grandma died?
She was 88 when she died.
80. Okay.
88, and I can't remember the year.
I think she died in 69.
69?
Year after I was married.
Yeah, that could be.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, dates go by fast when you get old.
They go by fast when you're my age. What were your parents' occupations?
My dad worked for Sly Furniture Company. He was a finishing foreman. And he was a great mixer of stains, and he was just a good finisher. And he knew everything about stains and varnish and how to mix them. And then when he retired from Sly Furniture, he loved flowers. So he went to, I'm getting ahead of my story. When he left Sly's, there was a small furniture concern on Granville Avenue, Naylor Furniture. And they wanted him to come and work part-time for them. Well, when it ended up, he went with them, and they built a building across the street and put him in there, and he was in charge of all their furniture refinishing and everything else, and he stayed there a long time until they sold out, and he just wanted to get out of it, and he was getting up in years. So then he went with the city of Grand Rapids. The mayor at that time was a friend of ours. He lived behind us on Dunham Street, and my dad went to work for the city, and he worked on parks and planting flowers and all, just was his own boss, and he really loved it. And he worked right up until pretty the day he died. He just loved to work on flowers. He loved flowers.
What about your mom? Did she work?
She worked during the wartime, during the First World War, which is really going back. She worked when my dad was at Sly Furniture. Then everything went to building or for the service, war goods, and she went to work at Sly Furniture. And I was at the war. I was about 6 years old, and they boarded. I lived with some people, lived 2 blocks from us. They took care of me while they worked. And when the armistice was declared, I was 7 years old. I can remember that, attending Sigsbee School. And then she didn't work for years. And then she went as manager for an ice cream parlor in Grand Rapids. And she worked there for a good many years, and she finally had to give it up. She was getting old.
I remember when you just said about the dairy, that's the first time I remember that, and I remember talking to Grandma about when she worked at, wasn't that Joppy's?
Joppy's, yeah. Yeah.
Great ice cream sundaes.
Yeah, it was a big place, and they had sandwiches, and it was real close. She had a block to walk to work, not even a long block. Just come out on Cass Avenue and walk over to the place across the street. And so that was sort of it.
Did you know your grandparents at all? And what can you tell us about them?
No, I know nothing about my grandparents. I really don't, not a thing. I don't know if my grandparents were living when my dad and brother come over to this country. I don't really know. And it's strange. We should have found out, but we didn't. We were living day to day.
Yep.
Not thinking of the past, I guess.
Well, see, my grandkids won't have that problem. They will know you through this tape.
Oh, yeah. They'll be so proud of us, especially Bob.
What can you tell me about your family further back than your grandparents? And I think you probably just answered that nothing.
Nothing. I don't know too much.
What is your ethnic origin, and how has that affected your life?
My what?
Ethnic origin.
Ethnic, my mother was Swedish. That part I know, and I think German. And my dad was Holland.
Pure Dutch.
Pure Dutch. And that's about all I can say about that. And my mother was Sweden. I think she was German too, part German. So that makes a good combination.
Okay. Is there anything else you can share with me about your family history? Any unusual events or famous persons? Is your family well known for anything?
Well, no, nothing that I know of. I don't know of anything that they're famous for. I just don't know of anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this isn't a test.
All right.
Now, Pop, what I'd like you to do is think back to the earliest thing you can remember.
Earliest thing I can remember? I can remember being on a scooter, a little scooter in the front of our house at 1244 Dunham that my dad built while we were just before I was born. I can remember being out on the sidewalk on that. Then the next thing I can remember.
How old do you think you were when that?
By the looks, and I've seen a picture afterwards, I probably was 2.5 or 3 years old when I saw the picture. I mean, I was older than that when I saw the picture, but that's approximately the age. Then I can remember the first day I went to kindergarten. When my mother took me, she stood me on a chair in the kitchen in front of the mirror and was combing my hair. I had a little hair at that time. And that's the two things that I can really remember as young. And other things are, I just don't know of anything I could think of. I remember our great Sunday dinners. We were a great one to always eat at 12 o'clock. And with my brother and sister there. I can remember 4th of July's. I slept with my brother. We had 1, 2, 3 bedrooms. One for my sister, and one for my brother and I, and my mother and dad's. And I can remember my brother putting a firecracker up in the bedroom, driving me right out of the bed. I can remember that. And that is part of the thing. I remember my sister's wedding. I was real young, and I can remember her coming down the stairs, and a friend of my brother's playing his violin, the wedding march. But like I say, I was quite young, but I remember it. And I think my sister was probably 17 when she got married, I believe. And she married a man that was a meat cutter, and he worked for Bueller Meat Markets and opened markets all over. I went down and worked for him for a while in Janesville, Wisconsin, where they'd moved, but that's getting into a different cycle.
Okay. Where did you live when you were little, and what did your house look like?
Well, our house was, when I was little, on Dunham Street, and it was a beautiful home at the time. All hardwood floors. Just, I think that home cost my dad less than $3,000 to build, all completely finished. And we lived there until the Depression come along, and I was living home at the time, and everything went bad, and they had to rent it. They rented it out. They had financed or loaned out of, I can't think of the name of the place anyhow now. So they give them an opportunity to buy it back. But they moved out and went on to Baldwin Street in Grand Rapids and rented a place. And they rented our house and got more money out of ours than they paid rent. And they got the home back. They finally got it back after years. But I'll tell you, those times were rough then.
Well, I think we're going to be getting to that, too. Did you go to school before elementary school at all? Nursery school? Or?
No. I started right at kindergarten at age 5.
Where did you go to elementary school, and what year did you start?
Well, let's see, I was born in 11, so I must have started in 16. And I went to Sigsbee School, which was about 3 or 4 blocks from our home. And I went there and they held us over a year because they were building the new Ottawa Hills High School, and it wasn't finished. So they held us over at Sigsbee, and otherwise we had an awful ways to go to school, central or south. So they held us over there until Ottawa was it wasn't finished when I went to Ottawa. I went there in 1926, and it wasn't completely finished until 27.
Well, what I'd like you to do now, Pop, is think back to some incident that happened in grade school that you remember well.
That I remember well?
Any incident that happened while you were in grade school.
When I tell you this, you say this sounds like Pops. Well, let's put it this way. I never looked for fights, but I had a lot of fights because I was known as a guy that could handle his dukes. So we had a new kid come into Sigsbee School. I can remember his name to this day. His name was Paul Martell. He was a Canadian. So he come into the room, and the teacher said, "This is a new classmate," so on and so forth. And somebody must have pointed me out to him because I was sitting there, and he come walking by, and he says, "You're Meyers?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "I hear you're pretty good." He says, "I hear you can have your dukes." And I said, "No." I said, I don't know where you heard that." So he walked on. Well, so anyhow, he said he'd meet me outside at recess. So recess time I went on, and I said, I don't want to fight with you. Why do you want to fight?" He says, "Because I like to fight." Well, I said, "I don't like to." I said, "I get scared." So we went to it. And the janitor finally come out, and one of the teachers, and they stopped us. Well, it was a pretty good brawl. So they stopped it. So what I forgot to tell you is this was in cold weather, ice skating. So we went over to John Ball Park. Ice skating. 3 of us kids. And here's this Martell over there. And of course, these Canadians were good skaters. He says, "You're just the guy I want to see." So we went to it again. But suffice to say, I did lick him. And I licked him good. But I was so glad when it was over. So that's enough about that. That's one incident I can remember.
How old were you then?
Well, I was in grade school, or Sigsbee School. I must have been, well, like I said, they held us over there. I must have been 14, 15 years old, somewhere in there.
Okay. Do you remember anything that happened when you were younger in school? Any instance from grade school?
Oh yeah. In Sigsbee School, they had a underground system of heating and so on and so forth. It was in tunnels. So you had to get in there through the janitor's room, which was a big gate over the tunnel, over the top, where you got down into that shafts. And 2 of us got in there one day, not realizing they could hear us in the rooms. And the janitor thought, "I'll fix them." So, we could go a long ways, way up into the gyms and everything, under the gym. So he come and locked the gate. We couldn't get out. And he just left us there until time for school to let out. I'll never forget that. So that's enough of that. I don't even want to think of it. We were both complaining down there.
Do you have any other vivid memories of your elementary school days?
Not really in elementary. No. It was a great time.
How were your grades in grammar school?
Average. Just average. Maybe a little bit above average.
How did you spend your summers during grade school when you were young? Just around the home and playing ball and what have you. I mean, my folks, my dad worked, and my mother was taking in washings. My mother took in, done washings, and in the basement of our home, and I had certain things to do. I had to cut the lawn, sprinkle, and
That was a hard day's work. Yeah.
Did you have any pets when you were little?
Any what?
Any pets?
Pets? Well, we had a cat, but that wasn't my pet. But we had a Persian cat. My first pet was a rabbit. And they bought me the rabbit if I'd take care of it. Well, I took care of it for so long, then I wasn't taking care of it, so they got rid of the rabbit. So
you have him for supper?
No, I don't know whatever became of the rabbit, but that little shyster would run all over Dunham Street, and when I'd whistle or something, he'd come tearing back home.
You remember his name?
I really don't. No, I don't. I don't remember his name. I don't think we never had a dog. Never had a dog when I lived home.
While you were growing up, did you have any sense of whether your family was rich or poor?
Yes. They weren't exactly poor, but they weren't rich. We got by nicely until the Depression come on, and
I think we'll get to the Depression a little later in the
yeah.
interview.
Oh.
What would you say now about your family's economic circumstances when you were growing up? In other words, as you look back, what do you think?
It was just mediocre. Just mediocre. We didn't have everything we would have liked to have had. It was skimp and go on clothes, even for school clothes. Especially when the three of us were home. Before my brother and sister left, got married. So, no, we were far from wealthy. But my dad was a good hard worker, and he worked all his life. When he come over here, he went to work for Sly Furniture, $3 a week. That shows you what. Now, $3 for two seconds work. But things were a lot cheaper then, too.
Were you happy as a young child?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I had a lot of fun. I can remember Christmases. Not being wealthy, that I remember the first bike I got for Christmas, come down the stairs and saw it sitting there. And we had a lot of enjoyable times. And
what would you say about your relationship with your parents?
My dad was the greatest. I loved him very much. My mother, I loved her. She was a little bit different. She was very, very stubborn. Very, very, I don't know. She had an awful temper. And I guess it run over into some of the kids too.
Couldn't tell it by me.
No, she had a terrible temper, and yet she was a great person. And I did love her. And she ended her years living with us. And my dad always said, Bud, he called me Bud, he says, if anything happens to me, take care of Mother. And praise the Lord, and bless her heart, my wife was so good to my mother. So good. When she was in very bad shape, couldn't control herself, and my wife was working, trying to work, and taking care of her, had the diaper, and she never complained. And that's one thing about my wife, your mother, Gord. She was great to my mother. And now I'm getting tears in my eyes when I think of it.
That's all right. I've said to you guys before that one of the real joys of my life was that we got a chance to live with Grandma.
Yeah?
Or that Grandma lived with us. Because we got to know her much
Yeah.
better than a lot of people get to know their grandparents.
That's right.
Well, let's move up to high school years. Where and in what years did you go to high school, and where did you live during this period of time?
Well, we lived right in the house on Dunham Street, and I went to Ottawa Hills High School, which I said a little bit about before. They held us over a year and put us in I went to high school there, and I started in 26, but it wasn't completely finished. I was finished in 27, and in the 11th grade, I dropped out of school. I hate to say it, but school just didn't interest me anymore. And I went to work for a neighbor who lived right next door to us in a grocery store, delivering groceries.
Well, let's not go into work until we finish.
Yeah, I don't like to work anyhow.
What I'd like to have you do is think back, just like with grade school, to an incident that stands out in your mind from high school years.
Oh boy, in a year's time, or a little over a year, what can you say about high school? I made a lot of friends, and I can remember coming out of high school and we'd go down to this kid's name was Bob Glass, and his dad was a banker, and they lived, maybe 3/4 of a mile from our house, and he had 2 sets of boxing gloves. And we'd go down there, and we'd put gloves on. 1, 2, 3, 4 of us put gloves on. And as I said, I was pretty good with my dupes. And they'd take turns and wouldn't give me a chance to get rested. About the time I hit the 4th one, I was getting banged around quite a bit. And I can remember that yet. And then we'd go down. He had a shooting thing down in the basement, all padded, where he could shoot a pistol. And his dad had a pistol, and we'd go down in the basement and shoot that. I can't really remember what it was yet. It seems like it was a 38, but I'm not sure. But I'll never forget the first time I shot that. They lit a candle, and you're going to shoot at that candle, see how long it would take you to put the candle out. If you hit it, knock the candle down, you were done. Then they'd put another candle up and light it, try to put it out. I took that gun, and I'm going to tell you something. It was pure accident. I pulled it down. I can remember pulling that down and letting her go. Hell, I couldn't see good anyhow. I put that candle out the first shot. They wanted me to do it again, and I said, no. I said, that's just like taking candy away from the kids. I put that candle right out the first shot. That's hard to believe, but it's true. I remember it. And and we used to run around together, and then it ended up this Bob Glass and a bunch of the kids from school got up a band, and they played at Ramona Park. And sometimes when I was getting into a different story, when my parents went to visit my sister, and I was home alone. Of course, I was up to 17, 18, 19 years old. And after the band got through out the park, out the Ramona, they'd come to the house, about 4 or 5 pieces, and we'd have some girls there and start that band going. I'm telling you, did the neighbors ever have an earful to tell my folks when they got home? Drink all the elderberry wine. So, geez. Yeah, then I wonder why my mother used to get mad at me.
I can't imagine why. What social group did you belong to in high school, and what kind of kids did you associate with? And it may be that we just covered that.
Yeah, I didn't belong to any social group. No, just made a lot of friends there. I remember a lot of them. And I often wonder now, sometimes I feel like calling some, look through the phone book and just seeing if they're still living.
Well, who were some of your best friends during high school, and are you still in contact with any of them?
No, not really in contact with any of them. One of my best friends was Bud Stonehouse. He went to a Christian school. He didn't go to Sigsbee, he went to Baxter. And his dad owned a cartage company. They had money. He had a car every day, every night, gas furnished. And he was always over picking me up. And if I didn't have money, we always used to go down to the old Cupie, which was on Cottage, and he'd buy the hamburgers, and best hamburgers I ever had in my life. And he was one, and then a friend, another one was Lawrence Bushyard. And he went to California. I've lost all track of him. And he was a friend of Bud's, too. The three of us were running around a lot together. And they were really the best friends. And I had another one that lived near us. His name was Levi Moore. And he drowned. His dad and him and this guy actually was a lifeguard. They were out in the boat, and the boat tipped over. I'm not sure it was a canoe or what, but anyhow, it tipped over. And neither one of them could swim. So that the guy with him, he went down, he brought Lee up and told Lee to hang on to the side of the boat. The boat was tipped, and he went down after his dad, and his dad panicked coming up and pulled Lee by the feet, pulled Lee back down. And he went down after Lee, but he couldn't save him. And I can remember this happened on a weekend. It seems like it was a Sunday. Anyhow, his sister come over and said, Levi's drowned, dead. And that was, that I'll never forget, because we'd always go to school together. And it just didn't dawn on me how he could drown, either. And I've been scared of water ever since. I panic in water. I really panic. And I see my grandchildren flash around in it, 2 and 3 years old, swimming like ducks. It makes me feel, of course, I can't help it. I just get scared in water.
Did you have a favorite sport? And were you on any teams?
Oh, yes. I played football. I played a lot of baseball. Baseball was my sport. I was a pitcher for about, I would say, 4 teams in Grand Rapids. Not all the same week, but they'd come after me to pitch for them. And I pitched for a semi-pro team where I got paid maybe $3 or $4 for pitching a night. And I loved that. And then golf. I caddied on the golf course. I started caddying when I was 14 years old at Cascade Country Club. And I caddied there for quite a while, and then that's where I made a lot of golfing friends. One of them was Marvin Stahl, who later went on to becoming a professional. But before he did that, he went to California and was in the movie business. And he was caddy master at Cascade when I caddied there. There was Harold Brink, who was one of the best amateurs to ever come out of Grand Rapids. Myself, Hermie Miller, who was great, Harold Brink, Hermie Miller, Ken Buchema. We all caddied together, and every one of them won the city championship except me. And the last year I played in it, I must have been 40-some years old. And it was a 2-day affair, and the first day, I was tied for second place. And it was held in September. Went out the second day, which was Sunday, to play the second round, and a terrible electrical storm come up, thunder and lightning and wind blowing. Well, I didn't play. I played up to the seventh hole, and I withdrew. It was terrible. But I love golf. I sleep golf. I have some of my best rounds in bed, dreaming about it. But
I think we'll get back to some of your golf stories a little later on.
Okay.
When we finish with some of this younger stuff. Like an important question is, who was the first girl you ever kissed seriously? How old were you? And what were the circumstances?
Well, the first girl I ever kissed, seriously? I kissed a lot of them, but I wasn't too serious. I remember one, she was, her name was Chickie. That ought to ask her a lot. She was a girl out to Ramona Park, where incidentally I worked too at one time, Ramona Park. And she was up where you throw the ball and you hit it, and they go down into the pond. And I met her, or I asked her for a date. She said, all right, and that was it. Come to find out, she lived very close to my uncle up on Fulton Street. And he saw me with her one time, and he says, waved his hand, and he says, boy, he says, I wouldn't run around with her. And I guess that stopped me from running around with her anymore. And I really didn't know what he meant, but I had an idea. So that's the first girl I think I was out with her 2 or 3 times, and she wasn't, I can't even remember what she looked like now. Now.
Did you attend your senior prom?
I didn't have a senior prom.
Oh, that's right.
I dropped out.
If you could have changed one thing about your high school years, what would it have been?
Oh, I think I'd have really buckled down and studied and tried to know what I wanted to be, and but that's past, and what I think I would have done or should have done, it's never going to happen because I just didn't do it. I've learned more through living the life than probably, I don't know, in reading. And I was a great book reader, and it's rather strange. I read very little now. The paper is about all. But I used to read. History, I loved history. National Geographic, I loved that. And
Louis L'Amour.
Yeah.
What was going on in your family while you were in high school? Do you remember that?
While I was in high school? I don't know what was going on. I don't know what you mean by what was going on. We were living a normal life. My parents were working. And I was going to school, and I didn't skip. And nothing special, I don't think.
Well, how about vacations? Did you take family vacations, and what were they like?
Well, yes. We'd go to, my sister lived in Niles, Michigan, and she married this butcher, but then he and his brother bought a dairy outfit out. And they had about a 20-room big farmhouse just outside of Niles. You could go up in the cupola and see Notre Dame Dome. And they had this milk business. And they peddled door to door and wholesale. And we'd go there about every summer for vacation, go down there for a week or two. And it was great. I mean, they really had a nice farm there, and Mother and I went down there maybe 10 years ago, and we went out to where the home was, and it brought memories, but the people that bought it made a showplace out of it, all flowers and shrubs, and I think it is where they raise it. Yeah, it was beautiful.
Well, to sum things up, how would you sum up your childhood and adolescence?
Well, it's been good. What can you say about it? I mean, there's a lot of things I wish I'd have done, a lot of things I wish I hadn't have done. But that is past, and all you can do is try to make the future a little brighter. We haven't got too long on the future either, I don't think. So,
all right. Well, now what I'd like to do is get into the Great War, World War I.
Yeah.
And that was when you were pretty young, I'm sure. And then the Depression. To shift gears, I'd like to ask you about World War I and the Great Depressions of the 1930s. What impact did World War I have on your life and the life of your family?
Well, like I said, when the war came on, my mother went into working in the factory. My dad was working, and of course that war started in 1914. We entered it in 16, this country. And at 16 I was 5 years old, and I boarded with these people. I loved them. They were very, very nice people. And I can remember when the war ended in 17, the bells were ringing, everything sounding off, and they dismissed school. I remember coming home from school and everybody yelling, "The war is over, the war is over." And that's my impression of the war.
How about the Depression? Did that have an impact on your family?
Oh yes, yeah. My folks lost their home, and were able to buy it back. They rented it, and rented a cheaper place, and they eventually got it back. And it was hard times for everybody. So, yeah, the war had an impact on a lot of people, and the Depression.
Okay, I think you didn't attend any college or vocational school after high school?
No. School of Hard Knocks.
There you go. Military service. Did you serve in the armed forces?
I was in the National Guards for 4 years. And when they were federalized, once you were in the Guards, at that time, I don't know how it is now, you were on call.
Do you remember what year that was?
Oh, when I first went in the Guards?
Yeah.
About 1928.
And you were in for about 4 years?
Yeah.
So you were in the Guard during peacetime, between the wars?
Yeah, between the wars, yeah.
What was it like in the Guard?
Oh, it was, I liked it. I mean, it was nice. We attended drill once a week, and then went to Grayling for 2 weeks, 15 days or something like that. And it was really enjoyable. The parents used to come up. They'd send up tents for the parents if parents wanted to come. So many, they couldn't get them all up there, but I know my mother and dad come up. But my brother and I were both in.
What kind of job did you have in the Guard? Rifleman or cook or?
I was a rifleman. Yeah. Wouldn't you feel safe if I shot at you? No. Oh yeah, we'd go on the range for hours and hours at a time, and I'm going to tell you something. Shooting those 30-aughts, oh, your shoulder gourd, man. And we had reviews in front of the governor, and it was fun, I guess.
How about World War II? How old were you, and what were you doing during World War II?
Well, World War II, I got into making soft drinks, and how it actually started. My wife's nephew came out of the service, and he was in the Marines, and he could get sugar under GI Bill of Rights. So I talked to him, and he said, well, I really don't want to go into that, but he said I could try and get the sugar for you, and I'd kind of be a silent partner. And he said, you can. So that's the way it started out. And so I went into this soft drink, or making orange juice. It was all made with concentrate. And we put trucks out on the road. My brother worked for me. I had a distributor in Lansing. I had one in Muskegon. I had one in Kalamazoo. One in Battle Creek. Distributors putting out this concentrate. But when the war ended, at that time you could, people that were taking 10 cases of cocoa wheat were getting one case because they didn't have the sugar. They couldn't bottle it. So we did very good.
Well, once the war was over and people could get sugar, then you lost your edge.
Yeah.
What impact, if any, did World War II have on your life?
Well, what impact? Not any more than they had on a lot of them when everything was rationed. Gasoline was rationed, tires were rationed, sugar was rationed, cigarettes were rationed. Everything was under ration. And some people got all they needed, other people didn't. And I got enough gas, and like I was running. We had one truck of our own, and I got enough gas, and I got my tires, and I had a few connections. If I run out of a coupon, I could still get it. So.
All right, well, let's move into adult life. When did you leave home, and what were the circumstances, and where did you go?
Well, I left home when Mother and I got married. Oh, I guess I left home once before that. I got in a scramble with my mother, and I went and lived with my sister for a short time. Then they wanted me to come back, and I went back. And it wasn't entirely all my mother's fault. There's a lot of things I was doing wrong, too. But to really leave home is when I married your mother. And we rented a small apartment from your aunt.
Okay. Well, where have you lived during your adult life?
Oh. You mean we've always lived in Grand Rapids, someplace or the other. And the first time we went out of there, we come down and lived in Lowell. Then we come back and lived in Grand Rapids, and I had a son, Gordy, that was going to go in the Air Force. So he was going to go in under a buddy plan with a kid by the name of Rimmer. You ought to laugh. So we had one car. We weren't wealthy at the time. We aren't now either, but anyhow, we rented a house in Grand Rapids across from Butterworth Hospital because we thought that would be handy for Gord. He was going to go to junior college. He said he wanted to go to junior college. So I said to Mother, well, and we see this ad, and we went in and rented this house. So in the meantime, the Ionia Free Fair was on. So he and his buddy went down to the Free Fair. We rented the house. I guess we'd moved. I'm not sure. I think we had. I can't remember that. Lo and behold, the kid calls us and says, I enlisted in the Air Force. I can remember Mother. Enlisted in the Air Force? He said, yeah. Raymer and I are going in under the buddy plan. Well, anyhow, it comes to turn out, they go down for their induction. And he says, I'm off for, where'd you go, Lackland? Lackland. He said, I'm off for Lackland. She said, how about Raymer? Says he's on the way home. He didn't pass. You remember that?
Oh, yeah. I remember that well. Well, I guess we've already answered that one, so let's go on to career. What was your very first job after you got out of high school?
Grocery store. I worked for a lot of them. The first one was with Boardman. I drove delivery trucks. Then I went for John Lowy down in the Division. I worked inside the store. He had a large store, did a big business, and I worked as a clerk. And at that time, it wasn't like it is today. You waited on people. And then he handled all Del Monte food, canned goods. And that was my job to go down. We had 3 basements, 3 different sections. And I had to go down, I had to order all the Del Monte. When we run short of Del Monte of anything, I had to order it. The salesman would come in and say, Meyers, what do we need? And we'd go down the basement, check it out. So that was my second job. Then I went to work for L.V. Eberhard. And I worked for him a while until I got in an argument with him. And I don't know whether he fired me or I quit. Then I went down to Janesville, Wisconsin. Worked a while for my brother-in-law in the meat market. He was setting a new one up there. And L.V. Eberhard sent a telegram, wanted me to come back. So I come back. And I went with another man and opened his second store up on Wealthy and Cherry, where it all comes together out there. I opened that up with this Gus. Can't even remember his last name. We opened that one. And, oh Lordy, I don't know. And then I left there finally, and I went to work for Roy Burton down on Jefferson. And then
what did Roy Burton do?
He had
another grocery store?
He had a grocery and big delivery service. Oh, geez, we delivered to wealthy people down there, Gord. Vandenberg, Senator Vandenberg, traded there. And he had meats and groceries. Had his son working there, his daughter working there, his nephew working there. I was the only one that wasn't a relative that was working there. And then he was going to open a second one up at Oakwood Manor. You know where Oakwood Manor is on Cherry? In the basement there. And it had 100 and some apartments. And he wanted to get that meat business, which, you know, he wanted that business, so that's what I did. I went up there and opened that one for him. Run it for a long time. Oh, I don't know. Maybe a year and a half, 2 years. And then it just, I don't know what happened. And he finally pulled it out of there and wanted me to come back to the store, and I didn't. I don't know where I went. I guess I went to work for Terranova Brothers down in South Division. And grocery business is the worst business I could have ever gotten into at the time. It was terrible. You didn't make any money, Gord. You didn't make any money. And long hours. Man, I worked for Wally, 6 days one week, 7 days the next week, $22.50 a week, 12 hours a day. I said, sure. So that's enough of that.
So then after you got out of was Wowie the last grocery company you worked for?
I think he was. I went back and worked for him 2 or 3 different times. He always took me back.
Where'd you go from there? We're gonna go all the way from back then to now. We want to know everything you ever did.
Well, I worked for Consumers Power. That was in between the grocery stores, evidently. I worked for them on a line truck. My brother and I both worked for them, both on the same truck. And they had climbers, linemen, and we were what they call grunts. We dug the pole holes, guy holes for the guy posts, and we worked all out of town. And this was during rough times. And I think our pay was $27.50 a week. Or was it 2 weeks? I think a week. Yeah, it was a week. And we were getting all our expenses because we were working all out of town. Reed City, Fremont, Big Rapids, Hart. We'd leave on a Monday morning, drive up there. That's where we stayed, had lodgings. And so Consumers Power. And I was there, I don't know, a couple of years. And like a lot of people, Gord, I had jobs and I just quit them and get something else. I don't know. And I can't remember all where I worked. I really can't. I had too many places I worked.
Well, somewhere in there you went to work for Hurryback. I remember that.
Oh, at the bar, yeah, that's right. I run a bar down on Division Street. I'd met Jack Emmons, and so I went to work for them, and I managed it for them because neither of them liked to work. Well, I wasn't too crazy about it, but I did. And I hired, and I worked off and on there for quite a few years. And then even when I was in this juice business, I used to go in there and work at nights. And then I also helped open up Nell's Bar in Lowell. When he worked to Lear, I guess it was, and he asked me if I could kind of watch over the place at night. And he was having a hard time getting any help. They'd work for about 2 weeks and quit. And I'd work all day on my juice business and then have to come in there, and I was in the potato chip business, and I had to come in there and run that bar at night and get up in the morning and run my own business. And I think the pay was about $1.10 an hour back then, and no wonder the guys were quitting him.
Let's see, so that takes, and then the potato chip business was probably, you spent a good number of years at that, didn't you?
Oh, yes. I worked for High Neighbor, which was 2 friends started that business. And they were buying all their chips from Vitaboy out of Detroit, come shipped in a great big semi in cans. Then we'd sack them under our name, and we carried peanuts, Polish sausage, pig hocks, everything. So I went to work for them, and that went on for, I don't know. I know I had 2 overnight trips. I'd go up to Manistee and stay overnight. I'd leave on a Monday, come back Tuesday night. Then I had to run down to Byron Center and down through there on a Wednesday. Then Thursday I left and went towards Cadillac and all up that way, and come back Friday night. Then my week was in. And then eventually they owed Vitaboy too much money, so Vitaboy come right over and they sold out, kept 2 of us, kept one of the managers, one of the ones I was in with him. His name was Muma, kept him and kept me. So I worked for Vitaboy for maybe 2 years. And I got teed off there, so I walked out of there. And then I don't know what I did. Oh, then I went on my own with Cuman. They had a very good business here, but got caught sending in chips underweight. And being from out of state, Ohio, they really put the pressure on them, so they went right down grade. So they wanted me to see if I could help build it back up. Well, I went with them. I guess I was with them for about 2 or 3 years, and I worked on salary. But salary then wasn't too big. I think I made $75 or $85 a week. And it got too competitive. Different companies were buying this one, buying that one, and they were giving good discounts. And how can you fight discount when you just had a small operation? You couldn't do it. So I got out of the chip business. Then what did I do? Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I think you got in. That's when you got into public service.
Yeah, when I went to work for the board.
Yep.
Which was the best thing that could have happened. Are we into that now?
Yeah, we're still talking about we're coming right up to where you retired.
Well, then I went the supervisor, one of the supervisors for Grand Rapids School Board. They were starting a busing business, and they had 3 buses, 3 large buses. But there's a chipmunk. Look at him writing your stuff. So they had 3 big buses and 1 small one. So they needed 1 driver. So he asked me if I could. He said, "Chips, why don't you come to work for the school board?" He said they got good benefits, which is something that interested me the minute he said benefits. So I said, "Well, when do you want me to start?" He said, "You could start tomorrow morning." Well, I said, "How about my physical?" And, he said, "Well, you've been driving for years." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay." So he told me to be up to Beckwith School Monday morning. So I went up there and got right on the bus, and they gave me a list where to go, and I started driving. And I was with them, I guess 9.5 years. Well, I drove bus for, when we lived in Lowell even. See, a lot of things come back. I drove bus there while I had the chip business, because I couldn't find drivers, so I could fit it in and drive the morning run before I left on my chip route. That started at 7:15. I could go out for an hour and a half or so and pick those kids up and jump right out and jump in my chip truck and go on my run. And I don't think I drove a night run because I wouldn't have gotten back in time. I know I wouldn't have. So I had driven bus, but anyhow, I put, and then I worked for Forest Hill School too. As a custodian, I had charge of Collins School. Then I drove bus there. I made more money driving the school bus than I did cleaning the toilets. So I bought.
That was an easy choice.
Yeah. So I bought back. I had drawn out my money that you put in for your pension fund. I'd drawn that out, and I bought it back. I actually worked for the school board just about 9 years, Grand Rapids School Board, and I bought back enough to make 12.5 years. And I bought it back, and that was a smart thing to do because it raised my pension, and we had awful good benefits there, awful good benefits for the school board. The state is one of the best benefits you can get. Our hospitalization, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, all paid for. We don't pay a penny. Blue Cross Master. And some way along the line it's taken out of our pension fund. I know that. And we don't draw for that many years. We don't, my wife and I both don't draw a tremendous pension, but we get what they call a 13th check in March of every year. One year we didn't get anything. That's when the big bank crush comes. We've gotten a bonus check of, between the two of us, of $5,000. Oh, a little under $5,000. What they call a 13th check. Now, last year we got, the year before we didn't get nothing. Last year we got 1,100 and some. And, which we didn't really expect anything again, but we got it. But, so, that's where I ended up.
Ended up with the Grand Rapids
School Board, yeah.
How about, what about your career was the most satisfying? What did you enjoy the most?
What did I enjoy the most? I think driving that school bus until things got too rough, and then I got off from it. I got a lead job, and the only time I drove was when we were so short of drivers that I had to drive as a sub. And but when the integration come along, sending white kids over to a Polish school, that was rough. I mean, lots of fights, lots of trouble on the buses. The dope come in, and we had to put guards on the buses. Every high school got police in them. Now this is fantastic. It's crazy, but you have to have that. But like I say, it's dope, and a lot of it stems from the family, from home life. Parents they have no control over their children, and so that about covers what I think of that.
Is there anything about your career, your work life, that you would have done differently?
Yeah, if I'd have had money, I'd like to have been a professional golfer. I'd have liked to have been right out practicing day in and day out and turn pro. But it took money. Like my brother, Ed, he actually, truthfully, was a better golfer than I was. I was not bad, but he was better than I was. Now there's a guy that should have been a pro if he'd have had anybody to back him and money. Because he could hit that ball. I'm telling you, Gord, I've seen him hit him 330, 340. You hit a ball that far, and iron shots, oh, tremendous. He wasn't missing many greens. He wasn't the best putter in the world, but like I was telling Dick, I said, your brother had that stab putt. And he said, yes, he did. And I said, he wasn't the best putter. Well, he said, at times he was. I said, yeah, at times he was. And I said, I guess that's true of all guys on the tour. They putt good, that's when they make the money. If they don't putt good, they don't make it.
Are you now, or have you ever been prominent, famous, or well known for anything?
I don't. Well, the most famous I've been known for is on the pool table. I've always been a better than average pool player. I mean, I guess I was considered a good pool player. I must have been. They called me a hustler. And I love pool. I don't play it at all anymore. I maybe played a couple times in the last 5 years. It doesn't interest me anymore. And I don't know what else I'd have been famous for.
Did you ever play pool with anybody that somebody might recognize your name from the history books in years to come?
That I played pool against?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I played against Cornbread Red, considered the 10th best player in the state of Michigan, or in the world, I guess, or in the country. And I beat him pretty bad. Harold Worth, the world figure champion, was a good friend of mine. I played against him a lot. And who else? Probably in the course of things, I played a lot of people. I didn't know who they were. They didn't know who I was, but they soon found out.
Well, let's switch gears again now, and I'd like to ask you about your political views. The last time you voted in the presidential election, for whom did you vote and why?
Well, let's see. I voted for Reagan, and I guess I didn't. I've kind of been a Democrat. I have been Democratic. Of course, your mother, my wife, or mother, is Republican. She said the other day that she thought a Democrat was more qualified, she'd vote for him. But I kind of disagree with that because she pulls that thing Republican straight through. And I never did that. I thought, but actually when you vote, you don't know what you're getting because they're all promises. Promises, promises. And I think Reagan did pretty good. A man that I didn't vote for, who right now I think was one of our greatest presidents, one of them, was Truman. I lost a lot of money betting on Dewey to beat him, who was governor of New York. And Dewey, I think, would have made a good president. But I don't think he'd have beat Truman because Truman wouldn't take any crap off from anybody. When he says, get out of our backyard, you better get. And it took a lot of courage to drop that bomb, which was devastating to drop it. But if you make those things, what do you make them for? So I don't know. He saved a lot of our lives and took a lot of theirs. Yeah. But no, I gave him credit. And Mother and I went to his. We went to his museum. We went there the day after that man was buried, Truman, and he's buried right in front of his museum in Independence, Missouri. And I never saw so many beautiful flowers in all my life, and great big ones, oh boy, from India, from all over. And I can still see his house with a picket fence around it, steel or iron, whatever it is, and the window where he used to sit, which was one of these that come out like this, you know, and he used to sit there in his rocking chair and look out that window at Beth. And I really enjoyed going through. We saw his car. He had a real flying cloud of his own. I can remember that. And the blanket was in the back seat. Had a phone in there. And there were just so many things, and all the stuff that was on Air Force One or his plane, whatever that plane was, all the stuff in silver and crystal. And so we really enjoyed that. We spent a lot of time going through his place.
Are politics important to you?
They are, but sometimes I wonder why, because there's just so much corruption in politics. Politics is corrupt, Gord. There's no getting away from it. It's so corrupt. This country being as far in debt as it is, there's no reason for it. Yeah, stop.
Okay, now we're going to talk about marriage. What is your wife's full name, and when and how did you meet her?
Well, her name is Clara Lee Meyers now, and it was Clara Lee Heft. A chum and I were out one night, and we had a date on the west side with a couple of girls, and my sister and her husband were over there. And we're supposed to meet them there. So we're going down Monroe Street. At that time they had, I think, streetcars. But anyhow, we stopped for a red light on the corner of, I don't know, it don't make any difference. It's right on Monroe. And here stands these four girls. And I looked over and I said, you girls got your transfers? And one of them said, yeah. I said, where are you headed? I said, I don't know who answered. And I said, where they're going. I said, well, we're going over there. I said, what, go on a ride? Dude, they started coming. And I had a Model A Ford with a radio in it. That might have enticed them. A V8. And they got in, and so they were going to, not the same place we were going. And I said, well, I got to make one stop first. And then I said, I'll drive you right over there. Okay, okay. They all got in the back, 4 of them. Well, maybe there was only 3. I think there was 3. But anyhow, I went over and I said, I'll just run in and tell them we're on the way. We'll be here a little later. So I went in, and the girls we had the dates with were there. And my sister and her husband were sitting there, and the girls were sitting right next to them, or with them, I guess. And I said, I got to take somebody over to wherever I had to take them. And she said, well, how about a dance first? So I said, okay. So we started dancing. It wasn't long, and then comes one of these gals and said, you can take us over there or not. And about that time, we didn't have no date with these 2 afterwards either. So I said, well, so I went out, and I took them over there, and I said, how about if I go in? Can I have a dance with one of you? Yeah. So we went in with them. We stayed with them all night long there. Well, come time to go home. Now, I heard your mother tell the story about I took her last. Well, this one, her name was Osterhaven, Margaret Osterhaven. She was a tall, gawky hound. And she said, well, I dropped one off, and then we went up Walsey Street, and she lived 2 blocks past where her mother lived. And I said, what are you doing, shutting off again? No. She lived 2 blocks past where her mother did, and I thought, geez, I don't want to take her home last. So she says, well, I turn here, I live right around the corner. Well, I said, I got to come back this way, which I didn't have to, really. And I took Margaret home, and I brought her home. And she got out of the car, and I said, I'm going to marry you. She shook her head and looked at me. She said, you're what? She said, I'm going to marry you. I said, I'm going to marry you. She said, how much did you have to drink? I said, not too much. So I made a date with her. And we went out, and she took her girlfriend along. So then it just went on, and it wasn't...
Where'd you go on that first official date?
Well, she said up to Pickwick, but she was wrong. We went out to, it was in Wyoming Park where they danced and everything else, and we went out there. And I guess I took the other girl home first on this one, and then I took Mother home. And
what was your courtship like overall?
Oh, she fibbed with me a couple times, and I mean, she told me one time she was going to Detroit to visit her sister, and I asked her to go to, I guess, Ben Burney, to the dance at Ben Burney down the Civic. So she said she was sorry, so anyhow, I got another girl. I got somebody, and I went to Civic. Now, she claims I didn't see her, but I did. Here she was with another guy, and here I was with another guy, and she's supposed to be in Detroit, and she wrote a letter from Detroit, but what she did is she wrote it here, sent it down to her sister, and said mail it. And I got a letter that she's in Detroit. Well, then when I see her out at the dance, I said, I was going to drop her then, but then she called me or something, got a hold of me, and said she'd made that date so long before and all like this and that. And I said, well, I'll think it over. But all the time I knew I'd want to go out with her. I did. There's something about your mother I just liked. And I'd been going with this other girl for about 4 years, with a few others.
How long after you met did you get married?
Well, that same year, 8, 9 months afterwards, or something like that. August, and I think I met her in, I don't know. April, May, June, July, August. Wasn't that long, was it?
Whirlwind romance.
Oh.
Love at first sight.
Yeah.
What would you say is the most important thing about choosing a wife or a husband? Advice to your grandkids.
About choosing a wife? I don't know if there's a set answer for that, but you gotta feel in here that you really love that person. And if you're lucky, she thinks the same thing about you. You gotta be compatible. You're gonna have ups and downs. You're gonna argue. You gotta learn to give a little and take a little. I think that's my whole answer. What love is, I can't tell you. I don't know what love is. What is love? I get up in the morning and I kiss your mother and I say, I love you, Rose. Well, what do you mean by I love you? What's that mean? You just gotta feel something in there that this is it. And love is a hard word to describe, Gord. Just exactly what all goes into love.
Sure it is. In what ways has marriage turned out to be different than you expected?
Different? Oh, I don't know. I don't know what I expected when I got married. I expected to have children. I think that's one of the reasons I got married. I wanted children. And I could have had children without marriage, I'm sure, but I didn't want it that way. I really wanted children. The only thing I regret, we didn't have a girl. And then there's times I think when I see what goes on with some of these girls, I'm glad we didn't. Because you boys ruined them. Right, Bob?
Well, let's talk about children then. When were your children born and what are their names?
Well, my oldest son is Ronald Lee Meyers. He was born October 25th in 1937. I'm not sure of the year.
You know me, I can't remember.
I can't remember. Well, anyhow, he was the first one born, and he is now a doctor. And then the second one was Terrence Lee Meyers, and he's a certified mechanic for the Grand Rapids School Board. I got him in there when he came out of service a good many years ago. And then my third one was Robert Wesley Meyers. He was an officer, crime prevention officer, patrolman, everything else in Midland until he got hurt in an accident. Now he's been on disability for, I don't know, a year and a half and having an awful fight getting his money out of him because they changed insurance hands. That's getting into a different story. And then I have Gordon Allen Meyers, who...
Best of the litter.
Best of the litter. Quite a shitter. And he is in the warehousing business in California. He sold out his own. Works for Homestar down in California. I guess he's doing all right. He's got 4 children. And
think back, if you will, to the day that Ron was born, your first child.
Oh,
Can you remember back then?
Oh, yes, I remember.
What was that experience like for you?
It was great. It was great. I can even remember the weather. It's the warmest October I think we ever had in history. When he came out of the hospital after, well, while before she got out, you had to stay a little while then. It isn't like today, in and out today. I went out and played golf in a t-shirt. It was that warm. My dad, who was living at the time when Ron was born, worked at the park right there by the hospital. And he was out puttering in flowers when we come out, and we stopped in the car and showed him Ron, and just a little light blanket over him. Oh, it was beautiful weather. So that's the firstborn. And it made quite a change in your life when you had a kid. And so then the rest of you guys come along.
What are some of the special memories you have of raising the children?
Oh, I loved it when we used to play ball out alongside the house. And I don't know. The kids got small. We had a great time. When they got a little older, they come home to eat and was gone, come home to eat and go to bed. And you didn't see too much. I had to yell upstairs, get them to turn the lights off, and quit reading those funny books upstairs all night long.
What's it like to be a grandparent?
Makes you feel old. Makes you feel. How about great-grandparent? It makes you older, Lord. I mean, I love the kids. You get them over here, and it's fine for a while, but if you get older, your nerves get bad, and they're running here and there and jumping on this and that, and you just, I don't know, I can't take it anymore. I just can't take it. Kim's children, she makes them mine, and yours are so noisy. We never seen too much of them when they were young. Oh yeah, we.
Okay, Pop, now I want to talk about a different subject area, and the subject of your interests. Number one, do you enjoy travel, and where have you gone?
Oh, I like to travel. I like to go, but I like to come back. And we spent 5 years in Florida after I retired. We spent then
5 winters.
5 winters, yeah, 5 winters. 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 months. Then this past year we didn't go anyplace on account of my back operation. And we spent 5 winters in Phoenix. And I really like Phoenix better than I like Florida, but I don't like it now right in the heart of Phoenix. I'd rather be outside a ways because of the pollution. There's so much pollution. So, and we've traveled. Mother and I took off and went north and went up through, I remember going up to Green Bay, and on the way home, we were coming back, we took 2 way across to Hecate. Just started out and kept going, stopping by smoked fish and a few beers, and now, at my age, the trouble is I sat so long that I can't, I get out and I have an awful lot of problems walking. So I guess Bob does too.
What would you say has been your greatest adventure thus far? What's the biggest adventure, the greatest adventure you've had?
Marriage. Marriage. That's the greatest adventure I ever had.
Can you elaborate on that a little?
Not really. It's just been exciting every minute. And I was fortunate enough to get a woman that won't argue with me. is very congenial, not a bit stubborn, and just best companion I ever had, or ever will have.
How about your interests? What, and I think I know the answer to this, but what are your interests and hobbies, and what do you like to do for fun?
What do I like to do for fun? Play golf.
Somehow I knew that.
Huh?
Somehow I knew that.
Play golf. Your mother liked to play bingo, so.
Well, this is a good time. Early on in the interview, you started to talk about golf, and I think this would be a perfect time for you to tell some golf stories. Whatever stories are interesting.
I got it.
Okay, we'll be right back.
I got to go to the potty so bad. Go.
Okay, we were going to talk about, before we took a little break, I thought that this would be a perfect time for you to tell some general golf stories, because I know that's next to Mother, that's the love of your life.
Well, like I said previously, I started caddying at 14. Started playing. We could play Mondays. Use some of the members' clubs every Monday because that was caddy day. And the caddies would all play. We had little tournaments. And so I played golf off and on and baseball when I was younger. Like I said, I pitched baseball for different teams, and golf I played when we could play. And I played. I won quite a few tournaments, and like I never won the city. I was the only one of all of us that caddied out there that didn't win the city tournament. Like I got beat out the last day in a storm. When I quit, I withdrew. Lightning coming right to the ground. And I had a group that another fellow had put together, and he wanted to give it up. And he had about 12 of us that played together, and so he said, "Why don't you take it over?" So I took it over, and when I ended up, I had about 24 that would go every weekend. Some would play Saturdays, and some would play Sundays. Sometimes they'd play both days. Golf wasn't as expensive then as it is today to play weekends. It cost a lot of money. But like now, I play just during the week because I can play 18 holes of golf with a cart for $11. Well, you don't get it for that on Saturday or Sunday, and that's senior rates. So I play two times for sure every week. Sometimes I played 3, but it's a little too much for me. I get too tired. Well, if I play on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, isn't so bad. But if it gets to a point where I play on a Monday and then some of them can't play until Thursday, and then to play Friday, no way. I just can't do it. I get too tired. So, as far as any great events, one of my greatest events was caddying for Byron Nelson when he, Ben Hogan, Jimmy Demerit, and Chick Harbert, a local out of Battle Creek, pro, long hitter, at what is now the Elks Club. I caddied for Byron Nelson, who was one of the nicest men I ever met. Hogan, very, very quiet. Didn't talk much at all. Nelson tied the course record out there. And not only that, he knocked the ball out of bounds on the 17th, no, the 16th hole. I'll never forget that. It was a drivable hole, 320, 30 yards, but traps on the right, trap part before you got to the green. So he hit one out of bounds. Well, at that time, you played another ball and shot 2. So, or it's different now. So he hit the second one, put it on the green, knocked it in, still got a 3. He only lost the distance, see. Now, golf has looked much different than it was then. Golf, the way it's played on the tour, I mean, it put us guys to shame. Like the way we play, put it up a little bit or tee it up a little bit. Boy, now you get down, you go to swing at a ball gourd, and if it moves, no fault of yours. You're just getting back here to swing, and that ball moves. That's a stroke, even if the wind doesn't. Now that just doesn't make sense to me, but that's the way it is. And we had some good golfers back in my day, some real good ones.
One of the things that I'd like to prompt you to tell us about is one of the things that's amazing to me. I play at golf too, but I can't call myself a golfer. But the amazing way that you can remember certain events from years ago.
Wow.
And there's one tournament in particular that I'd like you to tell us about, even though we've talked about it before. I'd kind of like to get that here. I think you know which one I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah, when I won the industrial championship. Well, this was during the war years, and my brother Ed was a terrific golfer. Well, the year before, I got knocked out, and my brother ended up playing this Ketis for the championship. And Ketis beat him. And Ketis was a good golfer. He was a good golfer, but he did beat my brother. Ed was kind of teed off. Because Ed could outdrive him and outdo everything, but he just got beat. So the following year, my brother gets knocked out, and I go all the way through. Well, my next to the last match, I played Ted Ball, who was a good friend of mine. And he could hit the ball, and every one of his shots, he played a hook shot. He'd get a lot of roll, overspin. He had big face driver, you know, which I had one of those. We called them mallets. I had one of those one time. Whatever become of it, I don't know. But, man, you could get overspin with that. Boy, how you could hit a ball. You got a big face, but it would be illegal for golfers today to have such a big face. So, anyhow, my brother said to me, well, when I went to play for the finals, he said, at least you'll get second place. I said, I'm going to beat him. Well, he said, he's pretty tough. But Ed said, if you ever beat him, it's going to be with your putting. He said, you really can putt. See, I used to stoop so low, he said, I sometimes think you putt with your nose. Well, if I had yours, I could have. But, so anyhow, we went out there, and his wife brought him out. And I was out on the tee, and his wife drove down by the tee, and he said to her, he said, I'll try to make this as fast as I can. And I said, I'll try to keep him here as long as I can. So we started out, and I can remember hole to hole, every hole. First hole was par 5. He was out in 3. I was off to the right in 3. I chipped up, got a par. He putted, 2-putted, and got his par. Well, we started 5. We both parred the second hole, 4s. Third hole was a par 3, about 165 yards with a green that went straight up. I mean, as you're shooting into it. And I went over. And he was just on the back edge. He didn't go over. So I chipped, and I went about 4 feet past the hole. And So I marked my ball and he putted. He went about 6 feet past the hole. He putted and missed, and I putted and made mud. And I beat him the hole. I had him one down. Next hole was par 5. We had to go over it. You could drive down about 210 yards or so, and there was a great big ravine and gully went all the way around. The green's off here, and this gully goes all the way around. Or you could play safe and go over around the corner, but that made it longer, and then you're shooting this way. So I laid one down there, and I hit one down there just about right, perfect. And I can remember I took a forward, and couldn't tell where it ended up. But we got up there, and I was on. He wasn't. And I beat him, so I got him 2 down. Played the next hole as a par 3. He took a 4, I got a 3, I got him 3 down. Next hole we tied. Next hole coming back, we tied with pars. Next hole he birdied, so I got him 2 down. We tied the next one with pars. I still got him 2 down. Next one's a par 5. We both got birdies. I still got him 2 down. I called your mother. I said I got him 2 down. And the pro in there, he says, "How's your?" There was a few following us, and he said, and I know how the match was coming. He said, Chips has got him 2 down. He says, "You're kidding." I said, because Barfield, you know, he said, "Hell, Ketis will take you like nothing." He wanted to bet, you see. And I wouldn't bet him, but anyhow, we started the 10th hole. He birdied. Par 3, short par 3. And he birdied it. So I got him 1 down. Next one is where I thought I knocked the ball out of bounds, so I played a provisional. When we got down there, he'd driven the green 320 yards. He drove the green, went past the pin. So I play a provisional ball off the tee, and I'm going, and some of the spectators are walking along, and got down, maybe 60, 70 yards, 50, 60 yards from the green, and under the trees. Said, "What kind of ball were you playing, Chips?" I told him. I said, "There's a red mark on it." Said, "You're in bounds, or you're right here." I said, "You got to be kidding." Well, I still figured I'd lost the hole. But anyhow, I got under there, and I couldn't take a big backswing, so I took about a 6-iron, and I punched it with a closed stance, and I punched it right on the green about 4 feet from the hole. So he gets up, and he's past the pin, and another one of those greens downhill. He putted, rolled off, and went down about 6 feet. He putted and missed. I beat him the hole. I said, so I got him 2 down. Well, we tied the next, I had him 2 down. We tied the next, I had him 2 down. Next one was a hole way up on a hill, par 4. And so I teed off first, and I thought, well, you could drive, but if you missed the green, you could get in trouble if you went off to the right or left. So I thought, I'll play safe for a 4. He's going to have to get a birdie. So I just took an iron and laid down at the bottom. And it was a steep hill. It was a steep green. It was higher than that house. You had to go up the bank. So he drove, and he hit up on top. I thought, boy, he's on. So I go down, took a pitching wedge or sand wedge, I can't remember which, and hit it, got up there. I walked up, and here's a ball about 5 feet from the pin. I thought it was his. And because we both had to go around and go up steps to get up. And we got up, and I said, "Oh boy, you had a good one there, John." Walked over and looked, and I said, "It's mine." I said, "You must have went over." So he goes and looks, and he'd gone over. I beat him the hole. He chipped on, 2-putted. I beat him the hole. Oh, he was pretty crying. He's so disgusted. Next one was a par 4 round, and he played it with a 4-iron or something. He went right over the trees. which was a beautiful shot because the trees go pretty to the green, and to drop down there, how he did, I don't know, but he was right on the green. The guy said he pretty went in the hole. So I played safe, or I had played safe. I shot first. And I played a hook around the trees, and it hooked, and I was maybe 30 yards from the green or so, and I could see he was on past the pit again. So I chipped on. Green was a little bit elevated at the front, and I'm about 15 feet from the pin, way short. And I had to putt first because he was closer than me. Knocked it right in for a 3. He putted and missed his. And then the next hole we tied. And the next 2 par 3s in a row, and the next one I had a 3. It was all over. And that was one of the, and my brother says, boy, he says, I can't believe that you beat him. He said, what'd you shoot? And I said, I actually had a 64. I played the last hole out, and I got a par on it. And I had a 64, which was only 5 under par because it was a par 69 course. So
golf's been the love of your life.
Next to mother.
Next to mother.
Yeah.
Any other great golf stories?
Oh, I can't remember anymore, Gordon. They've all been great to me. They're interesting. Yesterday was pretty good. With my handicap, I shot a 63 with my handicap, but I don't want to tell anybody what my handicap is now, because that'll spoil it. But I'm leading the pack.
Tell them you shot a 63.
I shot a 63. And at 80 years old, I don't think it's too bad.
It certainly isn't. If you can shoot subpar with your handicap,
yeah,
and you're well subpar with that.
Yeah.
I saw your scores, and I'd be damn happy to get them straightened out. What organizations do you belong to?
Loyal Order of Moose. I guess that's the only one. I never got overseas, so I couldn't. I got inducted, but I got turned down during the Second World War. I guess we kind of skipped that, didn't we? Yeah.
Well, we talked about that you served your time in the service before the war.
Yeah, and I got drafted in 44. Went to Detroit, got rejected on kidney stones, gravel in my kidneys. And they were going to send these guys over to Germany, the police anyhow, and I said, I married one, I don't want to go over there and meet any more of them. There, we don't want to go into that, but that got that in there.
Okay, Pop, now I'd like you to take stock for a moment. And as of this point in time, has your life turned out as you imagined that it would?
That's hard to say. I don't know as I imagined what was going to happen. I don't know as I knew what the future was. I had no idea what the future was. So I can't say. I never had any desire to be anything but what I was. Just an all-around good Joe.
Well, as you look back in say, 25 years ago, did you ever expect your life to be the way it is now?
No. Mother and I have been blessed. We've really been blessed. The Lord's been good to us. We're both getting old. We're both getting more dependent on each other. We've had good years, some bad times. We've argued. I don't think any real marriage goes without an argument. I hear some of these people get up and say they never had a crossword in their life. It's hard to believe. Maybe it can happen, but they sure weren't German Holland because you do get in arguments. And no, I never thought I'd live to be 80 years old, which I haven't quite made yet. But I often, when my sister died at 58, and my brother died at 56, when I got to be 56 and I was still here, I thought, I'll bet, and I'd had a heart attack. And I thought, well, I'll probably die at 57. Well, I got to 57, then it went past 58, and I thought, well, maybe it'll be 60 I'll die. I thought of death, a lot of things. Really, I got to be 60, I got to be 65, I got to be 70, I got to be 75, now I'm pretty near 80. Sometimes I think I'm going right on forever, but I'm not. I know that. And I do an awful lot of praying. There isn't a night in my bed that I don't thank the Lord for what He's done for us. I pray for all my children. I pray for my grandchildren. And ask the Lord to forgive me for my sins, to forgive Mother for her sins. And it's, I pray to God that I go first. Because I don't know what I'd do without her. I don't know what I'd do without her. And I don't know what she's going to do without me. Because there's so many things that she doesn't. I like to have her work with the financial. Now this is getting into material, financial. I take care of the bank book, I take care of the statements, I take care of all that, take care of all the bills. And she just isn't too interested. She makes the checks out. And I don't know. And so.
What do you think has been your greatest accomplishment?
Greatest accomplishment? Same thing, marriage.
Staying married?
Staying married, yes. That we've gone 53 years. And we're doing good. We have we're not wealthy, but we have a substantial income with both our Social Securities and with both our pensions. But if something happens to one of us, like if it happens to me, naturally I get bigger pension, I get bigger Social Security. Man, I remember when I started getting Security, it was $320 a month. Now I get about $720 a month. That's not tremendous, but it's enough to get by on, especially when you own your home. And she gets $6-something, plus both our pensions. And when it's tax-free, Gord, it's a pretty good setup. We get about $1,800 a month.
What has been your greatest disappointment or frustration in life?
Disappointment? I probably had a lot of them, but I don't know what they were. Maybe when I three-putted the green or something. No, I really don't know of any great disappointments. I told you I wish we had I would have liked to have a daughter, but there's times I think it's better we didn't have. I get my daughters out of my grandchildren, right?
Right. What is the most important thing in your life right now?
What's the most important thing? Well, I think for Mother and I to stay blessed and stay halfway healthy. And for my children to all do well.
What would you have done differently in your life if you knew what you know now?
Oh boy, I don't know. I'd have probably been a little more serious in school, and I don't know if there's anything special I would have liked to have been, because when it gets down to it, I got a one-track mind, and that's golf. I love golf, and I love it to my damn day, and if they put a putter in my casket when they put me away, I'm going to tell them, be sure to put golf balls in too.
So I think earlier on you said you probably would have, if you could have, you'd like to have been a professional golfer.
Oh, yes.
Golf for a living.
Oh, yes. Yes, I would have liked that.
All right. What are your goals right now, and what do you hope to accomplish next?
At my age, when I play that second 18 holes in this thing I played in yesterday and had the 63, if I can do about a 65 or 66. But I'm playing a different golf course, and it's really a course that I like better than the one we played. So I'd like to win it, not for the money, but just to win it.
For the winning.
Just for the winning, just to satisfy because everybody likes to win. But if I don't win it, I'm gracious. I mean, I don't. If somebody beats me out, well, that's fine. Just so they do it honestly. So,
if you could do anything you wanted to do, what would you do?
Like to be a pilot.
Pilot?
Yeah. I'd like to fly. I would really like to. I'd like to be a pilot. Boy, oh boy, you'd really have a time of flying with me if I had a six-pack up there with me.
Okay, now I want to get some predictions from you.
All right.
What do you think will be the major world events during the next 10 years? The major world events.
Oh, outer space is just tremendous. If my parents could come back and see what has happened, going to the moon, going to Mars, going where they're going to be gone for 3 years, I don't know how long. It takes how many years to go billions of miles up in space. How they can do all this, Gord, is just fantastic. I cannot believe it. It's just, it proves that anything can be done.
Especially when you stop and think that they weren't even flying airplanes yet when you were born.
No. The Wright brothers and it's getting. They're starting to know too much, and like with human beings, artificial hearts. They're thinking about building clones now, real clones. I said, oh boy, that's the time the Lord's going to step in, because you're not going to take his place, Lord. Nobody's going to take his place. I don't say he don't mind you having doctors and doing humanly what you can to ease pain, but I just can't believe that you're going to say, well, here, we're going to make people.
Scary.
Huh?
That's scary.
Yeah, it's scary. You bet it's scary.
What do you think is the most important thing you've learned about life so far?
Most important thing? Oh boy, that's a tough question, Gord. What's the most important thing about life? I guess it's caring and sharing and trying to be honest and sincere with yourself and people. I just don't know how to answer that. You have to be sincere and be truthful, and which a lot of us aren't at times. But that's it, period, I guess, Gord, as far as I know.
What's your philosophy of life? It'll get tougher the further we go.
Oh, Jesus, let's cut this short. I'm getting so I don't know what to answer. I mean, philosophy of life is, I often wonder why we were ever put here. I really do. Why were we put here? We're here today, gone tomorrow. Why? There's so many things enter my mind. I believe in the Lord. I ask questions that some people look at me in consternation and say, who created all this? All right, well, God created it. Then I turn around and I say, well, who created God? I even asked a minister that. I mean, they can't give you an answer. There has to be a beginning, Gord. But if there's a beginning, who begins it? Who begot it? I don't know. We don't want to get into that. No, that scares me when I talk like that.
Always has been.
What?
World without beginning.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, I think you probably kind of just answered this. What role does religion play in your life?
Oh, we attended church right up until a short while ago. We haven't gone very much lately, but Trinity Lutheran. Your mother was brought up in a Lutheran church, and I was brought up in a Sherman Street Baptist church. My folks went to church there, and in their later years they went to church on Cass there, right next to their house, or Lafayette, I should say, just a short ways from them. Religion should mean a lot, and when we're in Phoenix, we miss that. We had a minister down there, two of them. They were just great people. We enjoyed going there, and when we left, and they'd always call us and tell us to have a safe journey home, which was a Lutheran. So I joined the Lutheran church with your mother.
Well, how about giving me some examples of right and wrong?
Right and wrong, yeah. Well, Gord, right and wrong. We all know right from wrong. It's not right to steal. It's not right to take anything that don't belong to you, even if it's mother's rings. And my dad had a great saying. He had a great saying. He told me one time, he said, Bud, if you can't say anything good about anybody, don't say anything. And that's the greatest thing I ever heard in my life. And I don't think he was the originator of it, but he told it. And there's a lot of truth in that. But who lives up to it? I mean, I've talked about different people, and I probably got the same fault or worse. So.
Well, okay, Pop, we're getting near the end.
I hope so. I'm getting tired.
The next part is about the advice that you have for future generations of your family. First off, what advice do you have for your great-grandchildren in the area of getting an education?
Go for it. Get an education. Get an education. It'll never hurt you even if you don't need it. If you don't need it.
How about choosing and managing their careers? What advice would you give your grandchildren?
About what?
Choosing and managing their careers.
Wow. Choose a good one. And manage it right. I don't know.
That's pretty profound.
Yes. Yeah.
What about love and marriage? Advice to your grandkids.
Pick the right one. Make sure you got the right one, and I don't know how you can do that. I heard Mother say yesterday, and I don't know whether I agree with this or don't agree with it. I really don't know about live together for 6 months and see if you're compatible. Well, you could be compatible for 6 months, but get married in the next 6 months you might not be. I still believe in marriage. I don't believe in children being born out of wedlock. And the Lord only knows there's many, many, many of them. And working for the school board, I see so many children that are abused, that were abused. They're incorrigible. because the parents can't do anything with them, and they think the teachers can handle them. And that's not true. And I mean, I heard language on the bus from 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old kids that I couldn't believe. The language I heard. So,
how should your grandchildren raise their children?
How should they raise them? Just like I raised mine. Bang them around once in a while. No, treat them as an adult. Treat them as not being adult, I mean. Treat them as though they're in the learning stage and what you can teach them, providing you're teaching them right. So, here comes Vern back, I think, to do his law. And Jesus, that's a long call we've been waiting for.
Okay, how about a message for future generations? Pop, probably all the future generations of our family will watch this tape.
What's my...
And since you have the opportunity right now, what personal message would you give future generations?
I don't know. What can you say? Be truthful, be sincere, be lovable. And if you can't say anything good about anybody, don't say anything. And get an education. And once you set your heart in something, do it. Do it. Anything can be done if you really set your heart to it.
All right. We're at the end of the interview. Is there anything you would like to add or say to just complete things? Something that we didn't get a chance to talk about because it wasn't brought up by the questions, or you didn't get to say what you wanted to say. This is your chance, and take all the time you need.
Well, I'd like to say that I got a favorite grandson, and his name is Bob.
That wouldn't have anything to do with the fact that he's running the camera with it.
Oh, is that his name? Yeah. And he's a hard worker. You just can't slow him down. He's on the move every minute. He really earns his keep. Now, he's quite a cameraman. And one thing I like about him, he don't care much for girls. He doesn't care much for So that's about all. Let's cut.
Well, wait.
You're
not in control here. I am.
All right, well.
Thanks, Pop. I've had a lot of fun doing this, and I'm supposed to say good day, and this concludes our interview. Thanks a bunch. I've had a lot of fun doing this.
I've had a lot of fun. I enjoyed it, and I'm tired now from this. So I'll say toodaloo, tidy-tie, bye, Robin.
So long.